By the time you're 30, you're supposed to know what your career is. You're supposed to have an apartment, have a partner that you see a long-term relationship with. Your biological clock is ticking. You want to make a career move, but you've got rent to pay. I don't want young women to have to go through that same bullshit.
Welcome to Richer Lives, the show that teaches you how to use your money to live your best life. I'm Vivian Tu, aka Your Rich BFF, and I'm here today with the one and only Padma Lakshmi. Welcome, Padma. Thank you so much for joining me today. You need very little introduction, but for anyone who needs a refresher, you are an Emmy-nominated producer, the creator and host of Taste the Nation, the former host of Top Chef, a New York Times best-selling author of multiple books, and you are an ACLU Artist Ambassador for Immigrants' Rights and Women's Rights. I mean, when do you find time to sleep?
I don't sleep much, and I don't have much of a social life. I feel most at peace when I'm working. I am somebody who likes projects, who likes to work. So at the end of the day, I have spent my time doing what I wanted.
Yeah,
So,
and what you love. So Padma, the shows, the books, the speaking, the social media, of all of the things you do, what's your favorite?
My favorite is writing.
Oh, it is.
And my favorite is Taste the Nation.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get to develop and create your own show from your mind to fruition, you never want to go back to someone telling you to stand on the X. I mean, it took me, almost until I was 50 years old to get the opportunity to make Taste the Nation. Mm-hmm. And it has been the professional highlight of my life. When you love what you're doing, it's such a joy. And I remember sometimes our call time would be like 5:30 a.m. and I would naturally wake up at 4:30 a.m. because I'd be so excited to be at work. And I didn't make as much money per season on Taste the Nation as I did from Top Chef, but 100 times more rewarding, 100 times more intellectually stimulating and creative. And, I felt like a filmmaker. I am a filmmaker. I felt like an auteur.
That's so cool. Okay, so I want to pivot our conversation to how many people at home know of you. You were the former host of Top Chef, but you made the tough decision to move on. Can you tell me about your experience moving on and what it was like to explore something different?
Sure. I mean, it wasn't that tough of a decision. Oh. I think anytime you do something for that long, I was host of Top Chef for 17 years.
Oh, wow.
It's the longest job I've ever had. It's a lot of my adult life. And I was just ready to do something different. It was tough in the sense that that crew was like a family to me. My daughter grew up on that set. Mm-hmm. I've left filming the show, but that's my baby. Yeah. I helped build that show.
Your first TV love.
Yeah. It was a really big part of my life. And so, but it was time to move on. I don't think I was intellectually stimulated anymore. Mm-hmm. I did it to give my cookbook a little boost.
Okay.
I never realized it was become this huge
That's so
pop
honest
culture.
Of you to say.
It's the truth, I have a theater degree. Like, I'm a writer. That is my first profession. So the Top Chef of it all was just like a side gig that I did as gravy, like I said, to help my cookbook. And, of course, it did help my cookbook, and it helped make me a household name in 175 countries. Mm-hmm. I'm very proud of Top Chef because that is an institution that I helped build along with a lot of other hardworking people.
What advice would you give to someone who's balancing a really great opportunity right now, but excitement and desire to potentially pursue another opportunity?
I would say life is short. That's what I would say. But I would also say be prudent. You probably get a sense that I'm very risk averse, which I am.
You like to hold your stuff.
I just like to hold down my anxiety. I don't think that we work well under duress. I don't work well under duress.
Of course.
And I saw how my mother, lived a paycheck away. She was a nurse. She was a single mom too. And I didn't want to be like that. And so it was important before I left Top Chef to plan to leave Top Chef. So I also have a big office. I have my own staff. You know, for me to make any kind of move is moving a very big ship. When I make a financial decision, I'm not making it just for myself. I'm making it for all my employees. I'm making it for members of my family. And I'm making it on behalf of my older self. For my own retirement.
Yes.
You know, I am
I love that.
50-something woman on TV. So I'm basically like a car you just drove off of the lot, you know, in most of television and the world because of, well, patriarchy. You know, like I'm a depreciating asset according to conventional wisdom. I don't see myself that way, but I have to buffer against those financial troughs or bumps because there are several people depending on me for their own livelihood, and I take that very seriously. And also, I don't want to make decisions from a place of fear. I want to make them from a place of strength. I don't want to take some shitty job because I'm not, you know, doing my TV shows and I need the money. So I always make sure I save a certain percentage of my income, whatever that is, per year, that goes directly to an investment person who I've worked with for, you know, a dozen years. And I pretend like I will never see that money again. So when I started feeling like it's really time for me to leave, and, you know, I felt that a season before I left, I made sure that I had enough money not to make a single penny for at least a whole year. And still be able to make payroll.
Yep.
You know, all my employees have health insurance. All of, you know, I pay taxes on them.
Yep.
I'm a business owner.
Yeah.
You know, our production company is a functioning production company that has, you know, 3 projects in development. So all of those things and all of those goals need to be forwarded. I don't have a lot of wants beyond maintaining the lifestyle and maintaining the payroll. Those are the 2 biggest things I think about.
Let's take a quick time out so we can talk about another way you could build a richer life. Have you ever looked in the lost and found for any of your money that's gone missing? Maybe you should, because over 30 million people have unclaimed money or assets, including cash sitting in dormant bank accounts. Can you really know how you're doing financially if you can't even remember all of your accounts? Yeah. I didn't think so. It's so much easier to keep track of your money when it's all in one place. That's why you should switch to SoFi. With SoFi, you can bank, borrow, track your finances, and more all in one place. You can even add in accounts like your 401k, IRAs, plus track the value of your car and house. That way, none of your hard-earned money ends up in that lost and found. Go to SoFi.com/richerlives to start keeping track of all your money today. So I want to turn our conversation to the thing that we are most passionate about, you and me, is eating delicious food.
Yes.
And in particular, delicious cultural food that we may have grown up with or discovered on our travels. You've worked so hard to address how we define American food in your show, Taste the Nation. What lessons did you bring from TV hosting to create this successful new show?
I mean, I don't think I would have been able to do Taste the Nation if I hadn't already established my capabilities with Top Chef. So I do think one led to the other. One led to the other also creatively. You know, I'd had a long time eating very rarefied food of a certain ilk that only 2% of the population gets to eat. I mean, not a lot of us have $1,000 to spend on a plate of food.
Yeah.
And so after being on Top Chef for so many years and knowing this disconnect between the show's food, because it's a professional food show with professional chefs competing, to how most of the world eats every day, it is mainly a very rarefied atmosphere. That's not how I grew up eating. I mean, we would go out to eat twice a month, once for pizza and once either for Chinese or Thai food. That was it.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a very, very working class environment. And so I started thinking about what most people's lives were like. And I started thinking about all the immigrant lives of people I grew up with. And I didn't really see that on television. And yet that's how most people eat.
Yeah.
Not only in America, but around the world. And so I wanted to highlight that. I wanted to give that enormous part of the food world, the food landscape in our society, the same A-list, high caliber treatment, including, shooting our participants beautifully so that they have main character energy on camera.
How did you balance that, knowing that this is what you wanted to do, but you knew you had to, please certain people to get it eventually on TV screens?
It was hard. I knew the show that I wanted to do was very different from what was on TV. And, I'm the only female host who's doing that. Samin Nosrat did that 4-part series. But other than Samin, it was always some white swashbuckling chef out, in some weird place being like, let me tell you what's cool. And I, as an immigrant, as a brown woman, I have seen how our stories are told by other people, by white people. And, I love white people. No. I mean, I don't mean that even ironically. Obviously I have a child with who's biracial and, so it's not that. It's just that I wanted to hear it from the source. I was tired of other people telling our stories. And so I wanted to highlight that, and I wanted to hear from them directly. And that was not just about being respectful about their stories or doing our research and fact checking. It was all about lighting them beautifully. I was very frustrated for so many years about the lighting on everything I filmed because I'm a brown woman and I sit between white people and they have completely different needs than I do visually. And so I've been lit so badly so many times, because those cameras aren't made for our skin. The lights aren't made for our skin. And it's a hard job, when you're trying to film 2 people and you can't do it necessarily a key light to separate them, you have to have some kind of balance. But there's some beautiful cameras now that you can use, Barry Jenkins also talks about this when he filmed Moonlight, which is just a gorgeous film. And so that was really important to me. And I pitched Taste the Nation to 6 different streamers and networks, and all of them said no, and it was very depressing. It took me like a good year and a half to get that show off the ground. I would take my little wheelie and I would get on the plane on my own dime and leave my kid with my nanny and go and pitch the show. And then I would come back and Krishna would be like, did you sell the show, Mommy? And I'd be like, I don't think so, But I had such a clear vision in my head and I didn't want to do a lifestyle show. Nothing made me gag more. I really wanted my work to have depth and I wanted it to be meaningful. And I had been working with the ACLU for several years on immigrant rights. And I had my head full of all this, what I thought was useless knowledge, but wasn't. And finally, thank God, after flying out here to LA a couple of times and stuff and all those people selling no, I really thought, okay, nobody wants to make this show but me. I'm not going to sit here and pretend my tastes in television and programming are mainstream. I would rather watch The History of Paint at 2 a.m., But Hulu wanted to see me and my agent was like, they really want to see you. Will you, come back out here? And I said no.
Oh, really?
I said, no. I said, I'm tired. And I said, I don't want to be told no again. If they want to talk to me, this was before Zoom. I said, if they want to talk to me, I'm happy to do a Skype call. And I literally sat in my writing room. I think I had sweats underneath. When you go and you pitch a show to different networks, it's your show, but you cater it a little bit to the brand of the network. And because I was so browbeaten, when I had that Skype call with Hulu, I just pitched the show exactly the way I wanted to pitch it. I didn't watch my mouth. I didn't try to make myself saleable or be nice or marketable. This is my show. And if you think this is a lifestyle show, it's not. And I want to be my full self. I'm tired of wearing stilettos and these tight dresses, my hair all coiffed. I want to look like me. I want to be like me. I'm tired of only men getting to be their full selves on TV. I want to do the show like this. So if this is the show you want, great. If it's not, I'm going to go make dinner for my kid. And literally it was like, okay, thank you. And they bought the show.
That is so cool. I love hearing about this because you don't normally get to see, but I'm sure, how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
But this peek behind the curtain is really nice. So Padma, some of the cultures and foods that you showcase are probably some things that many Americans have never experienced or seen before. How do you go about storytelling in a way that allows them to relate or care when it's maybe a culture or someone that they really can't identify with?
Well, that's the whole ethos of the show.
Right.
I mean, that is, in a nutshell, what the point of the show is. The show is not created for people who think like me or eat like me. It's for people who maybe are a little scared of people who don't look like them. It's really designed to make you curious about your neighbors who maybe have a funny sounding name to you, or maybe there are smells coming out of their house that you may not recognize, or their parents have an accent. But, you know, all the communities that we feature are Americans. They are Nigerian Americans. They are Thai Americans, they are Peruvian Americans. And so that is what the show is, really. And it's been, like I said, such an honor because our show is completely dependent on our participants willing to open up.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm very humbled by the trust that they placed in me, how willingly they were vulnerable, were speaking about really serious and private matters. And I think that even when you're not in person talking to someone, is what builds empathy and community. We're at a time in our country where we really needed more community amongst different kinds of Americans. We needed more empathy towards people who didn't maybe look or think like us.
It reminds me of the speech you gave the last time I saw you. You mentioned how when it comes to fine dining cuisine, we close our eyes and immediately think of high-end French food or maybe Italian food or oftentimes some sort of Western European nation's food. But there are, you know, a really amazing, burgeoning number of cuisines that have historically been seen as lower value or only available as street food, cheap, things like that, whether it be Indian food or Chinese food or Latin American foods. Like, do you think that fine dining is changing, and how quickly do you think we will see more and more cultures become those really, really tip-top Michelin-starred
I think
restaurants?
it's happening. It's
good.
certainly happening in the coastal cities and in some of the bigger cities, even like Chicago and Atlanta. I am so here for it. For 17 years, I sat at that judge's table, and it was looking at food from a Western French culinary perspective. And there were, you know, some times when I felt like the foods of other ethnicities were being judged by the wrong set of rules, you know?
When you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree.
Yes, exactly. And it's not supposed to climb a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's supposed to be grainy. The
Yeah.
sauce is supposed to be grainy. Like, that is part of the texture, is part of its appeal, you know? And if those judges have never had Ghanaian food, South Indian food, fill in your blank, you know, they don't come to it with that perspective. So I wanted to make sure that when I was talking about these different cuisines that have come to our country from people who have settled here, that I was judging it through their eyes, because their palate matters more than mine in that situation. That's why I go into people's homes or people's restaurants or sometimes in the back of someone's truck, because I want to hear from them. I don't want to be like all those white male swashbuckling chefs who are like, this is the cool thing to do here in this weird place I am. Look at how weird this place is. It's only weird to you, dude. You know, like, the most exciting part of American gastronomy is not the Western European rooted high-end dining.
White tablecloths.
It's not.
Yeah.
The most exciting areas of American gastronomy are in these immigrant ethnic cuisines that are also not exactly what you would get in China or India necessarily. They are third culture food. And that's why America is so exciting.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why we're a world superpower. It's not just because of our military or economic might. It's because of all the cultures that have come here and contributed to the pop culture, to the art, to the food, to the engineering, you know, all of that. After the life I've had as a food professional or a food writer for the last 25 years, it's really exciting for me to be at the forefront of that because I want to discover it.
Yeah.
You know, I see myself, you know, yes, of course, I am a food professional and, you know, some would say a food expert or whatever, but I see myself not that way. I see myself as the audience's representative. And I hope that through me, my experience, they can also have a visceral experience in as much as that TV allows you to.
And transparently, I'm about to ask you a question that I don't think there's a perfect answer to. Certain types of cuisines are expected to have low pricing, large portions, and are always like still kind of seen, like looked down upon. How do you think we change that perspective? How do we elevate some of those other cuisines in other parts of the country and allow them to maybe earn their worth versus paying another $38 dish for tomato sauce and pasta?
Yeah.
I'm so tired of doing that.
Yeah, sure. I think it's going to involve people in power who are restaurateurs and investors to take a chance and also do their homework as they should for a return on their investment and find these chefs who are trained and who bring all of themselves to it. I think the onus is also on big established chefs to mentor a diversity of people in their kitchens. Like, if you're only hiring or, picking people for stages or internships in your restaurant that apply to you, you may just be getting the same kind of applications. Why don't we, in American culinary schools, why don't we teach African American food? Because that is a lot of the food of the South. Those are who was cooking it historically. Why don't we have classes on Native American food in, all the culinary schools in the country? Those are the kinds of things we need to change. Why don't we have a semester on, Asian American food, Latin American food, whatever it is, because that is who we are as a country. And that's also good for business. Who wants to go to the same restaurant all the time? It's boring. None of us eat that way. None of us eat one way, even when we're home. One night we have tacos, one night we have stir fry, one night we have whatever. I think we are going that way. I think it's really important to invest in those businesses because it changes the landscape of that city and makes it more exciting, Are there any cuisines that you haven't yet featured on the show that you're like dying to do? Oh, yeah. I mean, I would really like to go international with Taste the Nation. There's more migration today on Earth than there has ever been at any other time in the history of man. And I think that's interesting. Anytime two cultures, bump up against each other, there's amazing food to be had from that. So, what is Indian food like in South Africa? What is Turkish food like in Berlin? Those are the things that I'm curious about. Yeah. That kind of sleuthing and culinary spelunking is my jam. Yeah. I'd love to actually switch gears to talk about another part of your business that I was kind of surprised to hear about. And maybe this is me being nosy, but why did you choose to start a lingerie brand instead of a spices brand or a food-related brand? Because it was very easy. They came to me, is the truth. Oh, okay. That is the honest truth. I wish I could tell you, oh, well, X, Y, and Z. But I want to be frank, and because they came to me. Okay. They came to me with a very lucrative deal that was fun, and I had just done Sports Illustrated at, 53. Hottie. And I mean, I thought it would happen in my 20s when I was actually a lingerie model, but it never did. So I'm glad that it came now because it's much more sweeter. My body is starting to change, it does. I mean, after eating all that food for 17 years on Top Chef and then all the stuff on location with Taste the Nation, I feel different about my body today, just like I do feel differently about my finances today than I did in my 20s. And without a doubt. I wanted to try it. They made it really easy for me. I had been a business owner. I had the jewelry company where I owned 100% of the equity, 100% of also the financial responsibilities. Right. I had a showroom, I had corporate PR, I had 8 employees, insurance within Fine Jewelry Company, which is bonkers, astronomical. I'm sure. Right. So I didn't really want to do that again. And so Bare Necessities came to me with this collab, and they were very enticing. The deal was pretty lucrative based on the percentage of royalties I got of sales. And so it was like too good an offer to say no. I don't know if I'll do it again. It was a capsule collection, but it was fun. Hold that thought. I need to do a quick money lesson for everyone.
What do you get when you start an account with other banks? A coffee mug? Maybe a pen? A lollipop? A notepad? You don't need any more useless junk. You need more money in your bank account. I'm gonna show you step-by-step how signing up with SoFi can help make that happen. First, go to SoFi.com/richerlives and click the Open an Account button and fill out the information like your name and your address, the basics. Next, you're gonna set up direct deposit. Just grab the form from your employer, shoot an email to your payroll department, and they'll point you in the right direction. Choose how much of each paycheck you want to deposit into your SoFi checking and savings account. You can choose as much or as little as you want. And boom, now you're earning SoFi's highly competitive APY on savings balances with direct deposit. Plus, you can get a bonus of up to $300. My hot tip, keep that bonus in a SoFi vault, aka savings account, so you can grow your money even more. For the last part of our show, I want to talk a little bit about the only thing in your life that you love more than your work, your daughter, Krishna.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the life that you're creating and the financial stability you're building for her?
Sure. I mean, luckily for her, Krishna is growing up in a completely different universe than I grew up in. You know, my mother did not have any of the resources that I'm lucky enough to have. So for me, it's important to keep Krishna grounded. And we're working on that, you know? I mean, she's a great kid, you know, and she comes by all of who she is, honestly. But I try to instill that in her. You know, when I was little, I didn't get an allowance.
No.
You know, no, I made money plucking my mother's eyebrows because I was good at it.
Back up. Tell me about this.
Well, my mom, you know, my mom would always go to get her eyebrows done, and I watched because she didn't have a babysitter. She dragged me everywhere. I was like, I think I can do it, Ma. I can do it. And so she let me try it. She gave me her tweezers, and I did a good job. You know, I was always really happy to do it. And she would pay me $3 for doing her eyebrows. And that's how I made my money. And I would save that money. And then I babysat and I tutored. I've had a job since I was 10. Krishna obviously doesn't have any of those exigencies, but, you know, she's required to do certain things. And she will get an allowance if she does those things. I hope to sign the giving pledge, you know, as well. And she's not going to get, you know, everything I have upon my death. A good portion of that is going to go to charities that I've allocated. And another portion of that she will have to share with other members of our family, because I don't want her to think that she doesn't have to try hard.
Yeah.
And, you know, we will support her for as long as she's in school. But the minute she gets out of college, she'll have a grace period of a year or two where we'll help her a little bit. But she has to live within her own financial capabilities, because that's not only important to build financial muscles, it's also good to maintain a hunger and ambition to do something meaningful with her own life.
I love that you aren't only just telling her, you're teaching her through all of these behaviors.
I'm trying to, you know.
You're like, I'm trying.
You're not sure how much is going in, but you just do your best. Yeah.
Final question. Is there any one financial lesson that you learned from your childhood and your upbringing that you really hope Krishna walks away with?
To live within your means. You know, my mother came here as a fully formed adult without knowing anybody. She built a completely new life for us and sculpted the mist in the way that courageous immigrants do every day, and made so many sacrifices for me. This capitalist society really pushes you to have credit card debt and tries to make it so seductive for you with 0% financing and no payments till next year or 2 years from now. You don't know where you're going to be 2 years from now. So in as much as that's possible, obviously, like I had student debt. There are times, medical emergencies, you have to, you know, do certain things that mean living outside of your means. But whenever possible, because I saw my mom struggle with credit card bills to buy me school clothes in September, whatever it was, I don't ever think that's a good way to live if possible. I think you should always live within your means. And there's a certain kind of confidence and discipline building and character, like strength of character, that teaches you. And I want to speak directly to young women and say that it takes time to become who you are in life. So be kind to yourself and give yourself a break. You know, we are operating on rules that are outdated for the world and the lives we live today. And so by the time you're 30, you're supposed to have gone to college and potentially grad school. You're supposed to know what your career is. You're supposed to have an apartment, have a partner that you see a long-term relationship with. Your biological clock is ticking. You want to make a career move, but you've got rent to pay. As I sit here today, I want to thank my younger self. Like, I really do. That girl went through a lot, and that girl did not know what was going to happen to her for a number of years. And it's easy for me to say, oh, you can take a risk and life is too short. But I think it requires some planning, and I think it requires a lot of soul searching about really what your priorities are and where you can make an investment in your future self. People don't tell you this, but life gets better as you age. I want to tell you that because we are so obsessed with youth, and everyone's like, oh my God, I'm reaching 30, it's over for me. Or I'm reaching 40, it's over for me. No. What you lose in your youth physically, you gain so much more in peace of mind, hopefully, and in the way you evolve as a human being. And I wouldn't go back to my 20s even if you paid all the money in the world to me so that I wouldn't have to struggle financially. I still wouldn't go back to my 20s. I like my life now more than I've ever liked it. I am happier today than I ever have been in my life.
You have a richer life.
I have a richer life in every sense. And I wish somebody had told me those things when I was in my 20s.
I just turned 30, so I'm very grateful you're telling me this.
Yeah, and honestly, like the 20s, everyone thinks that women have it so easy because
my 20s were horrible.
Exactly, because that's when society thinks you're supposedly at your peak, but you're completely not, okay? You don't have anything figured out yet.
I had no self-respect, no money. My apartment sucked.
Yeah, and you're really very nervous and insecure and wondering if you're doing it right. And we don't mentor women enough. Like, they have that old boys network.
Yeah.
I want to make an old broads network.
I love it.
And I have made it my mission to mentor young women because I didn't have that mentorship. There was no roadmap for what I wanted to do, And so I made it my mission to mentor 3 different women that I'm very close to. And I have to tell you, I get way more out of helping these women than I think they probably do for me. Anything from like saying, no, you tell them that I'm an investor in your company and that you're not going to sign that contract because now my lawyer is your lawyer. And so I wish somebody had done that for me. It took me so long to figure out even what questions to ask. And I suffered so much. I did everything the hard way. And so I don't want young women to have to go through that same bullshit. It is not a fair world. It's not. And I just want to level the playing field.
I hope you do make Old Broads Club. Padma, that was so inspiring. I had so much fun chatting with you. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
That's all we have for today's episode. Make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons and follow SoFi on Instagram and TikTok. See you next time.
I'm not Bobby Flay. I don't care that much about grilling.
Don't get me started. I can't even get in. Your money's my money. I gave it to you.
I think he was just trying to be thoughtful.
Yeah.
I could have really done without it,